Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Nationals live stream just after FMQs. How are you doing, Steph?
Not too bad, Craig. Not too bad. I think it was a pretty heated FMQs today, with a few issues coming up. ScotRail being a biggie. So we're going to talk about that a bit, aren't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was quite rowdy. The presiding officer had to step in at one point, tell sort of people to calm down.
Yeah, well, that happens like every week at Westminster. We need it to happen. Happen more at Holyrood, I think. So Douglas Ross has told Nicola Sturgeon to apologise over the ScotRail timetable cuts. You can give us a bit of context with this, Craig, haven't you? Because there's a third of services have been cut by ScotRail, which has recently been nationalised. This is probably not how the Scottish Government wanted things to start.
No, I don't think so, not at all. It's not good. I think it was maybe 7 weeks ago that it was nationalised, and just after that, a third of services have been cut. There's many services where, people just won't be able to get to work or come home from work or go into the town centre at certain points. And this was the focus of FMQs today, because these train services, it's one of the biggest cuts for years to the train service. There's been sort of a long, ongoing dispute between staff and then ScotRail about pay, which still isn't resolved, even after it was taken into public hands. It was Anas Sarwar and Douglas Ross who both pressed Nicola Sturgeon on this. As you said, Douglas Ross asked Nicola Sturgeon to apologise, and then basically after she gave her speech said she didn't apologise, and then Anas Sarwar going back in on that topic as well. So it was
it's gone from ferries to trains, hasn't it? Although I don't think the ferries thing is by any means going to stop, but it's certainly another transport issue.
Well, I think it's either one of the party leaders did compare it to the ferries. It's like, first you nationalise this and you mess up the ferries, then you nationalise the trains and you mess up ScotRail. So that was definitely what some people were alluding to as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a sort of an easy shot, isn't it, for the opposition, I think. But also, what came up was Nicola Sturgeon was calling out Anas Sarwar over some of Labour's backroom deals with the Tories in town halls across the country. So we've got a little clip of that, I think.
Chasing headlines, presiding officer. Could that be like, I don't know, perhaps saying in a council election that there'll be no coalitions, and then doing backroom deals with the Tories after the council elections? Could that be what Anas Sarwar is talking about? How dare?
First Minister, there will be no conversations across aisles. No loud conversations. Thank you.
How dare Anas Sarwar come to this chamber and talk about the cost of living when his party is seeking to do backroom deals with the authors of that cost of living crisis?
Yeah, so quite, as you say, it got quite heated there. The presiding officer had to step in there. That was in reference to the fact that Anas Sarwar repeatedly said in the run-up to the election that he would not do formal coalitions with other parties in councils. It's been questioned a lot because most parties do have to do deals with other parties in councils. But Labour have teamed up with the Tories on some councils. Can you tell us a bit more, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, the SNP have really went out in this one. One of their politicians calling it an act of betrayal, because, as you said, in the council elections, they said they wouldn't do any coalition deals, and now the SNP are alleging that they are doing several backroom deals, as they call it, with the Tories and other parties, which is probably not what your average Labour voter would have wanted. So it makes sense, I guess, for the SNP to go in this quite hard. But as you said, it was getting quite rowdy in Holyrood. As Nicola Sturgeon said, that there were SNP MSPs sort of clapping, and you could see Anas Sarwar sort of saying "name one" as she was going on.
Is that what he was saying? Was it? I was trying to work out what he was saying with one, but it's name one, right? Okay, I see.
I think from what I can work out, he was saying "name one." And that wasn't even the only back and forth. There was a bit where Anas Sarwar was saying that the SNP hadn't taken into account their effects on the cost of living, and Nicola Sturgeon looking very, very angry. And she said, "How dare Anas Sarwar lecture her and her party on the cost of living when they're, supposed to be making these backroom deals with the Tories." I think she said they were the author of the cost of living crisis. Something along those lines. So yeah, very, very tense there.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the other big news of today is that there's been some more Partygate fines. I believe Boris Johnson has escaped, as has his wife Carrie, from getting any more fines. But this, of course, it closes one door. It ends the police investigation over Partygate. Is it 126 fines, I think, have there been now?
Yeah, 126 fixed penalty notices.
So effectively, this ends the police investigation. But as you may or may not remember, before the police investigation, there was the Sue Gray report, which wasn't fully published because of this investigation going on. So now that opens the door for that to be published in full. And I do believe we've heard whispers that it's not going to be great for the government. So that's going to be interesting, isn't it? That when that comes back into the equation.
Yeah, I mean, I think when the Sue Gray inquiry got released, some people thought it was damning, while others thought it really wasn't at all, and everyone was wondering what was redacted and what are, what were the findings in that. And she said that she couldn't release certain parts because the Met was investigating. Now the Met's investigation is over, then it should be able to be released. And, I think people are expecting it to be quite damning. I think the reports that it really, said there was a sort of failure of leadership and went into that sort of, the highest echelons of Downing Street. I mean, this was, 126 fixed penalty notices to, I think, over 80 people. So it's sort of, it would suggest it was more of a cultural issue in Downing Street and that area at the time.
So I think overall, 48 women have received a total of 73 fixed penalty notices, while 35 men received a total of 53. The Prime Minister was at 6 events which were investigated by officers, but he has only been fined for one, which was his 56th birthday gathering. Outside of political news, we obviously had a devastating loss for Rangers last night in the Europa League final against Eintracht Frankfurt in a penalty shootout, which was, gutting for everyone involved on the Rangers side. Have we heard from Murdo Fraser since the loss? Because he's out there, isn't he?
He is out there, and another Tory MSP, Dean Lockhart, is also out there. They were pictured together. I'm not sure actually. He has been writing a diary for the Times, sort of detailing his journey in Seville. But there's been quite a lot of backlash against that, as well as, MSPs don't get annual leave. So if he wasn't in Spain, he would likely be in Parliament. And he obviously wasn't.
Yeah, I think he was absent from there was a COVID recovery questions yesterday, and he's the Tory COVID recovery spokesman. So that was a bit controversial that he was absent from that while in Seville. So yeah, that's been a bit of a controversial one. But have we got anything else to update people on, Craig, or is that kind of, have you got anything interesting on the go at the minute that you're working on?
I don't know, did you have anything in the paper today that you'd like to discuss?
Well, I did have, I worked on a story yesterday about Gillian Mackay's members' bill being launched today. That's she's hoping to make it to introduce abortion clinic buffer zones, which will make it illegal for anti-abortion protesters protesters to stand within the immediate vicinity of an abortion clinic. This has been a hot topic over the past, few weeks, really. It's, we've seen a rise in pro-life protesters standing outside abortion clinics. And so basically the consultation on that bill has been launched today. It'll go on for 12 weeks until about the second week of August, I think that would make it. Gillian Mackay, who's a Green MSP, she just wants everybody to get involved and share their views on whether they think that buffer zones would be beneficial, and how they should be implemented, really. And for anybody that's come across protesters, to share their experiences. So that was something that I was working on yesterday. I've got still got a feature coming up centered around xenophobia as well in Scottish politics. So that should be hopefully quite interesting for people to read. Have you got anything that you're working on at the moment, Craig?
Yeah, and in today's paper, I had another sort of one of my cost of living series articles, which this time in today's paper focused on this Canadian woman who moved to Fife to look after her sick dad. But she, among millions in the UK, lost her universal credit uplift to 20 quid a week. And, she said that she had used that money to put £10 in her savings account every week, which would then be used to fund her high energy bills in the winter, which could be particularly devastating because, as we know, the prices have went up 54% in April, and then they're expected to go up even more come the next few months. So it was quite tough. And then a local authority administration in Fife, an error there led to her and her dad having to pay back hundreds per month. I think it was originally in the sort of plus 5,000 region, but the council did decide to sort of do away with most of that. But not great. And then for today, I spoke with the Hebridean baker, who's a TikToker, and he sort of educates people on Gaelic and on Hebridean culture and cooking, sort of classic Scottish recipes. I spoke with him because he was on an American tour for 2 weeks because he made a cookbook. We spoke to him a few months ago just to sort of chart his journey, and most of his audience is American. So he went over to America and, he met hundreds of fans, and he said he met hundreds of Scots as well, hundreds of Americans who were descended from Scots. So quite a cheery story with the Hebridean baker, which should be out tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds really, really fun. I think that's it for today. But we do have to mention that we have a 30-day free trial going on at the moment. So if you want to, get onto the national.scot and read all the stories that we've got on offer to you, with it, anything that you like, then you can do that there and experience what that's like for 30 days and see if you like it. So that's our 30-day free trial. You can sign up to at thenational.scot. But for now, we'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.